Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Stepping Forward Confidently panel, Footwear of the Future. I'm Banaz Garamani, and I am here today joined by Head of Design at Stuart Weitzman, Edmundo Castillo, who I work very closely with together at Stuart Weitzman, day in and day out. He's my partner in crime. And we're also joined by Danny Michelle, celebrity stylist, and Keisha McLeod, also another stylist that we work really, really closely with. They have both graced two of the biggest Stuart Weitzman brand ambassadors. Keisha works very closely with Serena Williams, who is our current brand ambassador, and Danny also works really closely with Kendall Jenner, who has also been another one of the big faces at Stuart Weitzman. So we're so thrilled to have you all here today.
How are you?
Thank you.
Great. So I also did want to kind of call out a little bit how much we love this family here, because we do have a really close-knit family. We work very closely in and out. And Danny is here with us kind of in a special circumstance. She's expecting, and she's actually currently at the hospital awaiting potentially to have her baby. So we will be very gracious. We're very, very, very thankful that you are here with us, passing the time with us, enjoying this conversation. Obviously, you have a passion for footwear.
Talk about passion.
I know. I love Stuart. And like I said, it's the first time I've been smiling a lot today. So I'm really happy to be with you guys.
We're so thrilled to have you. And should you need to step out, we totally understand. But we're excited to have, a great conversation together. So we want to kick it off. Let's talk about shoes. Edmundo and I have been talking a lot about this, about how shoes have really a transformative power. They really have an emotional meaning, especially in the current landscape. How has your, emotional relationship with shoes evolved given the current world around us? Edmundo, how has this impacted your designs?
Well, we have had to in terms of what is asked of us to design, what the stores want, what customers want, this whole trend of casualization have become way bigger than what we thought was becoming 2 years ago. And but what is interesting is that in this casualization, it's also, there's a look. It's not casual anymore as a function. It's casual as a look. So within the world of casualization, the looks have continued growing and evolving, and more casual shoes become more important. So it's very interesting. It's very inspiring too.
Yeah, I mean, this notion of how comfort has really, comfort and casualization has really taken centerfold. It's always been part of the trend from street style to athleisure, but now more than ever, it's become sort of front and center in terms of how comfort even gives us confidence.
Well, more than ever, it's become more real time. From runway to reality has been really on point. More than ever. Yes.
Yeah.
I would even say for me, a lot of like the emotional part, especially during this entire time, was parting ways with shoes that I know that gave me, I can't wear these for 4 hours. I was a little bit more easy to part ways with those kind of shoes during this whole time, whether it's with consigning them, putting up on Poshmark, whatever it is, and kind of getting rid of those and easing into my comfort. Instead of 115s, I'm down to 105s and 100s. I wouldn't even mind a really good 85. And, so it has been.
Don't go below 1.
I mean, those 85s are sometimes really good, but, it's changing over of who I am as a person too, and what I used to do and what I used to wear to, I guess, feel sexy. So, those kind of emotional parts of it. And so I would say feel is a really good way.
It's interesting. I feel like during the pandemic and where we are today, that the shoe to the outfit has become so much more important, because I feel like I've seen a lot of, jeans and leggings, and we're in this comfort zone, and whether it's even sweatpants, where it's like having a really cool shoe is still what kept it elevated. So I know in the beginning of the season myself, when I was like, okay, if we're really going to simplify our outfits, I need a killer shoe so I still feel dressed up and special and chic. And so I think that I've seen a bigger importance on having great shoes. And as you're saying, even really wearable shoes, in this transition.
Yeah, it's amazing how they can just lift your mood, right? If you are, and when we're used to wearing like a killer, pair of heels to make us stand taller and feel, prouder or just bolder. And now in this setting, like it does change your mood. And sometimes I find that even though I'm kind of getting ready for a meeting, just by having something on just changes my posture, even if I'm on a Zoom call, so that I feel a little bit more put together.
Oh, I have girls when we do photo shoots when it's like knees up and they're like, where are my high heels? Just so I can have more sass, shoes are so.
Well, they are definitely a driver. Shoes, besides being your most intimate form of transportation, they're also a mood driver. If you want to feel in a certain way, the shoe does a lot to make you feel like that, no matter what you're wearing.
Yeah.
Or not. The shoe always drives.
That's true.
Of course. It just feminine confidence, and like you said, it does change your posture so much.
Yeah. And Munda and I always talk about how like footwear is almost like makeup for your feet or jewelry for your feet, so that even if you're wearing something that's, casual or comfortable or simple or elegant, just a little touch of glam with your footwear, whether it's a flat or a heel, really makes a difference.
For sure.
Does anybody have sort of a shoe that, we talk, there's a lot of memory associated with what we wear. Is there a shoe that changed your life or that you have a really strong memory association with? Either for yourself or your clients, actually.
I think I told you guys this when I was super young. And, I was kind of at the point where I was picking out my own clothes and buying my own things. I still think that my mom bought them for me, but she bought me these really tall Stuart Weitzman Gladiators. Those ones that were like, this goes back
all the way to your knees.
Years.
Yeah.
And they were these like Gladiator elastic gold shoes. And I lived in Miami, and I wear my little short shorts and put on my Gladiators, and everyone would stop me everywhere I went. Oh my God, your shoes, your shoes. And I just remember like feeling how cool I felt just because I had these like shoes that no one else had. Mm-hmm. I still have them buried in my closet somewhere, but that was one of the first memories I have where I was like, shoes are so powerful and I'm so cool.
Mine was also that one single strap that you guys have, that one single strap shoe in the 90, like a 95, because I was wearing it to prom. And to now, even, using it on red carpets now to see how that shoe has evolved, and using it on my clients and what they do, or even dressing my client's bridal party and using that staple shoe, that's always one that has lasted the test of time. And so I think a brand like Stuart Weitzman is something kind of like generational for us women. So it works really well.
Like the single strap nudist.
Yep.
It's like if you have a red carpet or a cocktail dress or a chic pant, that's your shoe.
Easy. But for me, again, I have gone lower. I used to have the high ones, but now I'm like, let me, kind of like tone it down. And in the past, it was, just hurtful, or I'm like, okay, I can only go like 5 hours, and I didn't feel sexy with a lower heel. But I think for me and my confidence and where I am now, I can get those 85s and 95s and feel the same kind of like sexiness through it all.
But do you think that has to do also with the body language that you want to have? Because there's a lot of body language.
Silhouette of the shoe. I think it is. I think it's the body language of the person itself and the silhouette of the shoe. If it's still a really good looking shoe, whether low or high, it still makes you feel some kind of confidence that you're putting that on your body. I guess it is, because it's like you're the pump, the anti pump. We see a lot of short heel shoes, or and they just don't look the same. But you guys are able to keep that silhouette, whether it's here or here. You know, I can't really grab mine because I don't want to leave the screen, but you know, it's changing the heel height, but still remaining, keeping that shoe the same exact silhouette without changing a lot of components to the shoe, really makes the person feel different.
I ask that because I get inspired a lot by body language, and I think about, how, um, to the question that Benaz asked before about what was a shoe that changed my life. I was about 14, and I went to a TV show with my next door neighbor who had won Miss Puerto Rico, and she was invited to be interviewed in this show. And I went with her, and the hostess walked out of the dressing room in the highest heels I've ever seen in my life. I couldn't understand how anybody could walk in something that high. And today, I see women during the certain time of the day walking in a heel that high, and I feel that is the wrong body language for what they're doing at that day and time. You know what I mean? It's almost like, as a designer, there was a time when I wanted to see everybody in a 120. It didn't matter if it was morning, afternoon, or evening. Today, it feels more like 120 is just for a certain time of the evening, day, or purpose, while the body language of the day should be kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like a more organic sort of way of creating this body language.
It's interesting. So earlier on, I'm relatively short, I would say. So I've always relied on heels in making me feel really powerful and confident. But it's interesting that more and more I've found that, like a really great boot or a really great loafer or a really great flat or sneaker can actually make me feel quite powerful, because I can move, I can go about my day and do what I want and still be, the best version of myself. And we talk a lot about how shoes kind of bring in your inner confidence and your inner strength. And I think when you feel comfortable and at ease, then you naturally kind of exude that confidence and power and just shine, essentially.
But comfort should be in every single shoe. It doesn't matter how high it is
Absolutely.
or how low it is, because low can be killers too.
Yes.
So it's all about comfort, and with comfort, confidence gets more enhanced.
That's what I love about your designs, Edmundo, is that you know how to make a heel comfortable. Like,
well,
absolutely.
I out of respect for women, you don't want anybody walking weird in any shoe. You want them walking, gliding, whether it's in a sneaker or on a super high heel. But when I talk about body language, is that there is a different posture depending on the heel height, and there is something about the way that you behave or you want to behave, that the shoe is the one that pushes that many times.
I can compare it. If I'm in a 120, my shoulders aren't so, I guess, poised, and I have to stick maybe my butt out a little bit more, and this just to make myself even, I guess, to wear a 120. And for me, that just sounds like a whole bunch of lower back pain that I do not want to deal with during the day, no matter how comfortable the shoe is. So that's one of the reasons why I wouldn't necessarily put a 120 on to walk around, whether maybe I'm going on a date, with my man, and that's about it, because I'm going from there to there, and that's the energy I want to give off that date. But now when I need to walk into a building and I have my power suit on, I kind of want to walk with a certain stride. And so those 95 to 105s just feel a little bit more when I'm walking. And I think that's a lot of what you mean about the feel. So I know exactly what you mean by how I can feel.
I'm going to counter on the opposite side of the spectrum and I'm probably going to be embarrassed, but I love the kitten heel. Like that's the type of girl that I am. And I actually visited the Stuart Weitzman office and I got, someone will have to tell me the name. It's like these little heels. The front has the same V as the Annie, where it like V's in front, and then it's open back kitten heel.
It's the Lula, I think.
Okay.
With the strap on the instep.
Yeah, I'm like
No,
looking
that's
now.
No strap. It's the Lula.
I got them in white. I
Okay.
ordered the second pair in white. I ordered
Oh, the
them.
mule. Sorry.
Yes, the mule, because it's the same thing to what she said, that when you walk into a meeting, you want to have that strut. I love the little clip clap that it happens when I walk. And I just know that I can, like, it's the same side of the conversation where I have the flats and I can move and I'm comfortable, but I also have the power of my little flip flop, my little heels clunking. And for me, like once I discovered that I could pull it off, it was like my go-to shoe. So I applaud you so much for the tall, but
But-
suck the kitten heel.
That's him. That's not
but wait. But that's not.
me. I said the tall for a date with my bed. That's it. I'm not wearing that in a meeting. 95. I said 85.
So is that
But
just
a mule is a different story.
No, they're
A
like
mule, even if
Okay,
it's on a
I'm
kitten
85.
heel, yeah, a mule, even if it's on a kitten heel, is not the same as a kitten heel pump. And a mule, you're a lot sexier because of the way that shoe is making you walk too. So it's almost equivalent to a high heel.
Funny. I like that perspective. Yeah, because a lot of my kitten heels are mule kitten heels. And I wonder why I'm drawn to that. It's interesting you say that they're naturally more sexy.
Yeah. Doesn't matter the height.
So now I know I'm 85
Yeah,
girl.
no, dang, 120s are like here.
I know a 120 because I have one client that will only wear 120, but I thought we were bashing 85s, but that 85s
Oh
are
no, Amundo kind of was told me to go to 100. I will stick with my 85s to the day I die.
But it's funny because that kind of height, there was a time when it felt like the sensible heel height.
Yeah.
It was almost like the dowdy heel height, but it suddenly became a really chic heel height. So, it all depends on the times. And it's funny, as we continue, as the years pass, all of these shoes that were considered dowdy are looking cool, and they're looking, they're looking great, and they can look very sexy as well, depending on the shape of the heel and all of that. But it's funny how when time's changing, how a shoe is perceived different too.
So Edmundo, now that given the pandemic this last year and, a little bit of a resurgence of hope, a resurgence of optimism with the vaccine coming, and just in terms of how the multifaceted modern woman's day-to-day life has changed, how has that factored into your designs? We saw, for example, a huge trend with this lug sole trend throughout this past year, as women were kind of wearing shoes almost as armor for when they were going out, and you wanted to have really this protective gear for when you are kind of going out and about. How do you find that this has impacted your designs? What do you sort of see as changes in the modern woman's wardrobe, and how does footwear kind of fit into that?
Today, every single shoe, no matter what category it is, whether it is from a Havaiana flip-flop to a Croc, it is a look. Every single shoe is a look. Before, there were shoes to dress up in, to put a look together, and there were shoes that were just technical, to go to the gym, to stay at home, to go to the beach. They weren't necessarily looks. They were shoes to do this because you didn't use all those shoes, all the other shoes to do that. But now every shoe is a look. Even a Croc is a look. So that part is a lot of fun because we are expanding within Stuart Weitzman the categories of all of those end uses and putting a lot of fun into them. We're working on a Croc type shoe. We did our jellies, that are like total rubber to go to the beach, but we embellish them with pearls and stones. And you know, a sneaker is a complete look today. Doesn't matter, you know, what type of sneaker it is, whether it's a retro 80s, retro 70s, or a super futuristic type thing, is a look. So that is more fun when it comes to designing.
And Keisha, what about you with your clients? Do you find that, you know, how has their styling needs changed as this year has progressed? Are you finding that, you know, your clients want still a little bit of that glam for, you know, the occasions that they have, or is it more that they're looking for something that's more versatile?
I can give you like a quick example and then I go into an explanation. When we did Architectural Digest, the cover with Serena, and she's in this gorgeous Gucci sequin gown, she's barefoot, you know? So it was like, you know, shoes made it to go over the top where it maybe before the pandemic, it would have been required and would have made sense, but you kind of wanted to tone it down and show that same power woman. I think that what my clients are doing now is, I think it's now one of the most important pieces, part of their wardrobe, but it's now how can we infuse comfort with that and what makes me comfortable rather than doing something to where it's a little bit of pain or I'll just do it for a few hours and your confidence is coming from there. I think that's what I see my clients doing, but we're basing it around the shoe and building up now.
That's
I
interesting.
completely agree. I feel like, you know, it used to be, you know, cute ankle boots and cute heels to always finish off an outfit. And now everyone's in, you know, their favorite combat boots and their favorite sneakers. And there's been a new investment in sneaker gear. And I just think that, you know, we've certainly toned down our street style just to pay respects to everything that's going on around the world. And I just think that everyone's adjusted and it comes from the ground up. And I definitely see flats have taken a much higher road, whether it's a really cool boot or a sneaker. And I did actually just use a Havaiana flip flop and I had to do a pool scene. And I was like, can we bring back a Havaiana and just keep it so minimal and simple? So I think we're all in the same, you know, mindset.
Yeah.
So fascinating.
It kind of goes hand in hand with like faux fur, you know, or faux printed snake or faux alligator. It just like, it's almost like the real stuff feels inappropriate, but you still want the textures and you still want all of that. But it's faux, which was so like, wait, no, 10 years ago, now is all about that.
So now we're at kind of an interesting time in terms of even just culture. We're trying to identify like what's next. You know, we're coming off of runways where we're seeing some brands showing on the red cart and on the runways, and some brands still aren't. Brands are still kind of, you know, trying to be the source of inspiration, of fantasy and dream of how fashion inspires you to dress. We're about to enter into this sort of red carpet season that has been on pause for so long. And we haven't really had those red carpet glam moments. And we're kind of at a little bit at the brink of slowly coming out of our shell. And Edmundo and I talk a lot about, well, like what's next? You know, what are we going to see after, hopefully, you know, God willing, the vaccine gets spread enough that there is enough immunity for people to have the ability to go out and travel and go out and party and all of those things. What do you guys feel like is next? And are we going to see that casualization is sort of here to stay? Is it sticking? Is it like this elevated casualization? Or is it going to be something like the roaring 20s that we talk about with Edmundo sometimes? Like, is there going to be this like decadence and extravagance that kind of comes out once we're all out into the world again?
Well, I'm kind of inspired by that concept. In fact, the collection that we are working on, which is pre-spring, the inspiration is all coming from the Brazil Carnival. Because that I can't wait to get under a disco ball and sweat and dance and have a good time. And I think that there's a lot of people that feel the same way. But I think that it's not that casualization is going to die. That's here to stay because it is comfortable and it looks right also. But there has been a miss on those shoes that are like the wow pieces, whether it's a wow sneaker piece or whether it's a high heel wow, but whatever you would call a Y piece has not been around that much for the past year. And I think that it's time to bring that back to the front.
Danny, what are you seeing?
It's interesting because I'm trying to think of it as a full picture, that a lot of people, when you talk about how our lives have changed, working from home, not needing to be at every single event every night, these differences in our lives that have slowed things down. Everyone really seems to appreciate it. And I mean, while everyone wants to be able the freedom to go to a restaurant or to travel to see loved ones or for a vacation, I just do see a lot of people say, like, it's so nice to have more home time and more like self time. So I wonder if maybe that simplicity in lifestyle will also transcend into fashion and stay with us for a little longer than we anticipated versus, the roaring 20s. And that's just kind of my thought, is that I see a lot of people really enjoying these changes in respects to like the change in their lifestyle somewhat. I don't want to be insensitive to anyone's pain or loss or suffering, but I think that there's a chance that we might integrate this comfort level into fashion for a while.
Absolutely.
What I think is that it's kind of going to be a shift, that let's say the quote unquote Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, that's our casual wear. And the weekends we look forward to dressing up. Where opposed to it was the reversal, to where the weekends you couldn't wait to put on your favorite sneaker and your sweats and just kind of just lay back. So I think that decadence is going to come back in a speakeasy kind of style, only on Friday nights and Saturdays. But then throughout the whole week, you're in casual wear, you're in your sets with casual pumps and stuff. And I think though that Friday and Saturday is going to be that sneaky, speakeasy, glam kind of days again. That's what I think.
I mean, we can dream, right? We can dream. But I do, I agree, Danny, there's definitely certain elements that I kind of hope will stick a little bit. And there's parts that I'm really looking forward to as well. Just even as we slowly get to emerge from our cocoons, I think. I'm gonna ask to see if the audience has any questions as we are kind of getting closer to the end. And if you do have any questions, please put it in the chat. And while we wait for questions to come in, I'm gonna ask our panel speakers for another question in the meantime. Sort of, is there a footwear trend or a shoe trend that you wish would come back? Is there anything that you kind of like miss that you're like, oh, I would love to see that come back?
I think it is. And you have it on your site. I forgot the name of the shoe. It's the platform, that black suede platform front. What's the name of that shoe, Edmundo? Because
like an espadrille? No,
not an espadrille, just like a 70s kind of platform in the front.
The crisscross sandal. It's like a crisscross sandal with a thick heel.
I think it's the Solis.
Yep. No, I think it's a thin heel. I'm gonna look for it right now. But the 70s platform for me is a shoe that's coming back, that I wanted to come back, and it's coming.
We are working on it. We're working on it for the next season. I do feel the platform too.
And the 70s too.
Yeah. But I'm loving a closed toe platform more than an open toe platform. I mean, of course. And a clog, like a wood.
I'm
kind of loving it.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Danny, are you into the clog?
I know I am. I actually just saw one the other day and I was like, I need to pull this. And I love just the really cool loafer, but like the stack loafer. I just got the Mila one from Stuart. And I just think like with the tassel, like there was something so, like the 80s guy shoe. And then I remember in the 90s, like it had a small little kind of chunky heel. And I love that shoe, and I feel like it's coming back. And I love a good loafer, but like the elevated, not the simple Gucci one, like one that has like the stacked platform, like you guys have it.
A thicker sole, yes.
It's
Yeah.
called the nudist disco. It's on your site, the nudist
Oh, the
disco.
nudist disco.
Oh,
Yeah, with the platform.
disco.
You love the
Yeah.
nudist.
I love the nudist. It's easy, but that nudist disco with that platform front brings I know the 70s are coming back, so I'm excited for that.
Well, we're talking about all of this disco and 70s and the loafer and the clog, it's all the 70s in the air. And it was a time that there was a lot of fun happening too. So
I can't wait. That the sneaky Fridays and Saturdays.
Easier. I find on a platform, like you can have a higher heel, and for some reason it's easier to walk in. It's bizarre.
So a question from the audience, kind of the reverse of that. Is there a footwear style that you wish would go away? Is there something you're like, oh, I'm done with this. Can we move on?
Oh God, it's so hard. There's a time and place for everything. Like there's the really skinny, elongated, skinny heel, then there's the square toe. Like there's really a time and place where anything can apply. So I can't think of one thing that I'm like, never again. It's like the perfect answer.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I would say I'm not a fan of wedges, but
a lot of girls aren't.
But I don't know if I am, and if it's just I might be a fan of it regularly. I don't know, and that would be, let's say it's not getting the highest score in my favorite shoe. That I wouldn't say let's ban it.
I just literally the other day I was pulling shoes and I found a Lucite platform. So it was like Lucite close to platform, and I was like, genius! I have to have. I don't know, or not platform, wedge. It's like I don't know what it is. Everything gets me. I don't know.
Someone wrote ugly sneakers. Thoughts on ugly sneakers or the dad sneaker? Is that a love and we want to stay, or are we over it?
I think it's a street style trend. It's really big for like, I don't know. I can't really pinpoint it because you can't really see where it would go or where. I'm not a fan of dirty sneakers or sneakers that are made to look ruggedy. I'm okay with that's what I can say I'm not a fan of.
Well, the thing about the dad sneaker is the volume. What makes it fresh looking is the volume of it, the dad type sneaker.
Yeah, I like the dad sneaker, but not the ugly sneaker.
The ugly sneaker, yeah. The dad sneaker isn't the ugly sneaker.
I mean, there is a lot of sneakers out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questionable ones. At the end of the day, is always a timeless sneakers. Is always the winner.
Yep.
Oh man, a low white sneaker. I feel like, especially for a gentleman, but I feel like a low white sneaker is just classic and
easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
That's great. So I don't know if there's more questions coming in. We have a little bit of time left. And as we're waiting for a couple more questions before we kind of round it out, just curious, I think we talked about this a little bit, Keisha and Danny. Are you sort of seeing that your clients, especially, are they looking for, this sort of effortless casual look in their day-to-day? As it pertains to just the overall look, or is it more that they're just ready to kind of glam it up a little bit when they're doing their shoots or when they have interviews? Edmund and I were kind of reflecting on this a little bit too, just sort of being like, God, at what point, just celebrities need to kind of balance those two needs of always needing to look so polished and glam, but still wanting to be relatable and accessible.
I think photo shoots are a full fantasy. So I found that with photo shoots, fashion has remained, still like the dream, and we're able to, create a dream world and from head to toe. But I feel like on the day-to-day street style, I'm so sorry, my hospital water, 1 second.
You are a hero.
you have stories for that, baby.
That's a Stuart Weitzman baby, whether you know it or not.
I said, I was like, don't put it past his mother, like to hold up her obligations. than to be involved in fashion to the last minute. But I really feel like from the day-to-day street style that the comfort is really taking the triumph right now of just being relatable and comfortable and just realistic to what's happening. No one needs to outdo what's happening in reality.
For me, it's what we mentioned right before we went live with this is the comfort, and like I said, the Ivy boot was one. Is one of my favorites, and that's what I wear now to set and for me to make an impact. And I make sure my clients are in that, some sort of combat boot or even a heeled one for that matter, or even the same regular flat ones. It's the look of it all, and I think casual is here to stay with that.
What are we going to see tomorrow at the Globes?
Are we going to see pajamas or gowns? I don't know.
I don't know.
Or just silk pajamas.
I think people will be. I think people are going to be dressed. I really do. I
think
really
we'll have this full spectrum. I think some people do the fantasy, which is the invitation for Golden Globes. I mean, it's one of the most regarded award shows. Like there is a dress code, but then I think you're going to get the spectrum of pantsuits and more relatable pieces.
Because this notion of like runway to reality that Edmundo, you and I were talking about, is this like, fashion's role is to inspire, is to kind of create a little bit of that fantasy, that dream, and the Globes are that, there's something you look forward to for the glam.
Was it the last award show last year? It was the last one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like this one, what it's going to do is give us that direction of where
it's going to
go. Yep, absolutely.
Interesting.
I'm excited.
I am excited too.
Yeah.
There's a question from the audience about what's the best style or shoe if you have wide feet? As someone who has wide feet, I can appreciate this question. We actually talk a lot about extended sizes and widths and just making sure that the shoe fits. Like that's such a big thing. Having a shoe that fits is half the battle of it being comfortable and half the battle of you feeling good in your shoes and feeling confident. Edmundo, what do you feel is the best style for someone who has wide feet from the looks that you've designed?
Something that doesn't have a lot of coverage on the foot, because a wide foot it depends on where is wide. It could be a super high instep, or it has to be a wide foot in the front. But I think that the best thing is to keep the foot as naked as possible, something that doesn't cover so much, so that you don't feel that you're not so contained. But I don't think that I think that if you have a wide foot, it doesn't matter. You can wear a stiletto, you can wear a pointy toe shoe. Pointy toes come in many fits. So it doesn't, because it's pointy and your foot is wide, it doesn't mean that you can't not wear it. You just have to find that brand or that width. In the case of us, that we have different widths, is to find the one that fits you the best. But don't brand it that pointy is not good for you because you have a wide foot.
I'd agree with you with the brand. I think I don't think it's looking for the specific shoe, because you can go to different brands and that same shoe is not going to fit you across the board. I think when you do have wide feet, it's getting the specific brand that works for you and kind of stick with it. That would be my answer to it. I grew up and I had wide feet, and then my feet kind of narrowed out the older I got.
If the shoe fits, buy it in every color.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's really no other answer.
A really good question from someone who's looking in terms of being a stylist. So for Danny and Keisha, and then also I would say from a design standpoint, any kind of advice if you're someone who's starting out as a stylist or even as a designer, like how would you go out on your own? Any suggestions, any tips on what, has helped throughout your career?
Just speaking out and going on your own, I'll just go backwards. I think that when you are starting a career in fashion, whether it's on the styling side or design side, I think that experience is just so important. I know there's a lot of schools out there that try to explain to you, you can get a degree in styling, but I've had so many of these kids come to me and they'll say to me that they learned more in 2 days, hands-on working in my office, than they did in a whole semester or a year of program in these classes. I think that you should take every opportunity that comes your way. When someone says to you, do you want to do this editorial shoot, and maybe the rate's really low, or maybe you're get an internship, but every one of those little, you know, stepping stones leads to the career that you have. And I know when I started, like I was never concerned with money and any of that. It was just about what opportunity and what could this lead to, and what will I learn and how can I grow. And you know, if you put your heart in something 100%, people will recognize that. And that's where the going off on your own will come about, because people will say, you know, look at this, the energy of this person, the talent of this person. Just staying in your lane and doing your job, you know, the rest will come to you because people will recognize that.
Yeah.
Take every opportunity.
Yeah, I would say yes to staying in your lane, and understand what kind of stylist you want to be and assist that stylist that's in that lane. Don't just, you have no desire to do editorial, but just want the experience to do it, but that's not where your passion is. You tend to always mess up. And I get a lot of assistants that, oh my God, I want to do this and it's glam, and I'm predominantly in sports, and so know how to work around it and understand the stylist that you are assisting, and you can go far. I just gave 2 of my old assistants to athletes that they're now starting on a retainer, and they're doing so well for their you know, themselves, but they knew the lane they wanted to go in, and they came to me like, hey, this is what I want to do. And I assisted them with that because somebody gave me a chance. So it's kind of starting the blueprint of knowing what you want to do. You wouldn't want to just be a designer of clothes and then you're like, oh, well, let me start at Stuart. What, you know, you got to know where you got to help you got to start. Help us help you.
I mean, what you did for them is so major, and it says so much about your character. But I just always advise that, like, they shouldn't ever go into a project being like, what can I take from this person?
What can I take from that? Absolutely.
Yeah, what can I step over? Like, everyone should understand, like, we all paid our dues. Yep. I packed and unpacked more garment bags and cars.
Than you, and I know how many. I can tell you if a duffel bag is 68 pounds, or I can tell you if it's 53. That's how good I am.
I get to the airport, I like to guess, and I'm like, oh, I'm so good at it.
I'm so good at it, and so you can't do that. So it's definitely, don't come into a situation to take advantage of what's going on in here. Like, oh, I'm going to steal it. I already know that because I did it. I made every mistake. I corrected things. I called it. I did everything you think you haven't done. I've done it. I know what it is. And so, you know, coming into the opportunity, know what you're going into, know that this is the lane you want to be in or where you're going to go. Is it going to lead
so much? Because think about the decade you've had of learning all of how to check in and check out photos and how to wrap jobs, and there's just so much that you've learned that there's more they could ever get working from you than A, going to class, or B, jumping the gun and making mistakes and ruining their reputation or their own career. You know, take your time, learn what you can, grow it with time, and when it's the right time, the right things will happen.
It always manifests that way.
That is such good advice. Such good advice. So I know we're at time, and this has been such an amazing conversation. I mean, really, it has totally made my day, and I can't thank you enough for our panelists for being here. Thank you so much. Danny, we wish you the best. You'll have to keep us posted. We're rooting for you. This is so exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much for sharing your afternoon with us in Edmundo. I love spending every day with you.
I'll see you on Monday.
I know. Well, talking footwear is my favorite thing, you know. So thank you to our audience, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for spending this time with us at Stuart Weitzman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to see you, girls.
Happy weekend, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Good luck, Danny.
Good luck, Danny.
Thank you.